Roger Krulak, welcome to Listening with Leaders. You are the founder and president, and I think CEO of FullStack Modular, which is a really interesting, innovative construction firm. And your website is fullstackmodular.com. Welcome to Listening with Leaders.
Thanks, Doug. I really appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. So, Roger, a little bit of your backstory to get us started.
So I grew up in the construction and development industry, construction and development family, degree in organizational psychology, spent a lot of my early career building and designing data centers and all kinds of other commercial construction until the dot-com crash. And then I went back to my knitting with residential development. And then moved to New York to work for a large New York developer building multifamily in mixed use environments, in conjunction with retail, et cetera. So have spent a lot of my career on the development side trying to fit pieces and parts together that don't necessarily fit or are slightly, atypical. Like, how do you have a residential building interface with a shopping mall in a way that doesn't feel like the residential space is in a shopping mall? Those kinds of interesting conversations, and have always been wildly unhappy with things that take too long, waiting in line, at any point, traffic, movies, restaurants. I'm not really interested in that. And so my career has sort of fallen that path. And so from construction development, sort of redeveloped the idea of modular mid to high rise solution to our housing crisis in the United States.
I've always been aware of modular housing, but I've always seen it as being one-story prefab, like Clayton Homes, people like that. I had never really conceived of the idea that you could do modular multi-story structures that worked.
Yeah, it's definitely, it is pushing the envelope, or as we like to say, with the sort of internal nomenclature, keeping everything inside the box is a challenge. But that's the goal, and obviously the reason for that is we build it in a factory based on theoretical ideas, and then bring it to site, and then put it in its final place of existence. So
what's been the market acceptance of this idea?
Slow, but it's happening. Right now, it's on fire. There is more talk and activity than there has been in a long time. And at the beginning of the process, I would go into a room and everybody would roll their eyes and say, "I have no idea what this guy's doing here. He's out of his mind." Even people in the business were like, "Tall building? Like, what are you talking about? It's not going to work." So, and then we built the tallest modular building in the world, which gave rise to the industry, really. I think in many ways, it was not the only driver, but it was one of the major sort of touch points on why the industry makes sense. And then, they built taller modular buildings in the world. So the idea has and is continually evolving, and the industry is continually evolving. But it was definitively, per your comment, a pioneering sort of out of the norm way of trying to address a problem that we all know exists. Like, you just open up any newspaper anywhere in the world, and there's an article about lack of housing. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in San Francisco or whether you're in New York, or whether you're in the Caribbean, or whether you're in Saudi Arabia, or whether you're in Australia. It doesn't matter. It's the same problem. And most people aren't doing a whole lot to try to solve it.
And what you've done is developed a system for constructing housing and commercial that is faster, more efficient, and much less costly, if I understand your website correctly.
Yes. I mean, the costly is part of the taking advantage of the industrialization of the process. So the less costly, at least from a hard cost, perspective, is a lot about how you're doing what you're doing and how much repetition there is in the process, not necessarily the product, but the process that drives costs down. But it is faster. It's definitely higher quality. It doesn't require as many skilled trades. And it's, you can work 365 days a year unless, you're unfortunate enough to be in a hurricane. You could pretty much come to work every day.
Right.
And it's safe and consistent and, ergonomic and all the things that we seek to do to make productivity of people and other things more efficient.
Now, the other thing that I appreciated was the safety concerns. I mean, when you're building high rise, that's a dangerous enterprise.
Yeah, not when you're only 24 inches off the floor at all times. Even
Right.
for a 35-story building, you're still never more than 24 inches off the floor.
I mean, I guess the thing that's interesting is how do you get the modular structures up that high? And I guess you just have big cranes.
Yeah, it's the same crane game mostly as anything else. Our system and the way we've created it even thought about the efficient way to install them. So it has there's lifting lugs on all of our mods that stay in place, and you just hook them up, drop them down. They have a self-sealing facade, goes into compression. It is taking away a lot of the patching process of creating the built environment. It's holistically building it and then literally taking sort of an erector set Lego game and put it all together, all fully distributed MEP and structural, et cetera.
Wow. So what is it that gets you really excited in the morning? You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, I have.
What gets you excited in the morning?
Look, I believe that it's a problem that has to be solved, and I feel like we live in a country that this should not be a problem. Like this, that doesn't make sense that this is a problem with the kind of wealth that we have. And I walk around and see all these people who would like to have housing. Of course, some of the homeless people you see don't want to have housing, and some of them have other issues. But the reality is that there is a chunk of people that is significant that would love to have a place to live, and they don't. And it's absurd. We are completely capable of, perfectly capable of doing that, but we're not. So we have to improve. We have to improve, and this is a way to improve. And also, the process of the skilled trades is a wonderful thing that we should, as a country, be proud of. We should, as industries, be proud of. But it's not efficient, and it's not meeting the needs. So we have to be willing to shift the process to accommodate the needs, because otherwise we're never going to get there.
So this sounds like a combination of policy and industry figuring out.
Yeah, I'm sort of to the point where I'm hoping that our process will affect policy, not vice versa. Right. And we're pushing pretty hard on that. And I hope that it does happen. And I'm pretty hopeful. I feel pretty good about some interesting shifts in the idea of how we house people, and the health of living space, and the value of density and transit, and all the things that we have been talking about and city planners have been talking about for a long time. But now we're living it, right? We're living the need, and it's so evident. You go to any big city in the United States, and you're going to run into the problem head on some corner, and we're really doing a miserable job. I mean, it's miserable.
Don't get me started on it.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, and I have friends who are in the affordable housing development space, and they're amazing at what they do, and what they do is amazing. It's just not enough.
And they can't have enough. I mean, I live here in Central California and led an initiative, 15 years ago to try to tackle the mental health, homelessness, and addictive disorder problem that we have here in Central California. And I talked to the guy at that time that was the CEO of our local housing authority, and I said, how much is it going to cost to house? At that time, it was a relatively low number of people, I think 7,000 homeless in the region. And he said, it's going to cost us X number of millions of dollars. And I said, and how much do you have in your budget to do that? And he said, I have 1/100th of 1% of that. I said, well, what are you going to do? And he said, I don't know, but I don't like what you're doing. Because we were looking at the San Antonio model.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's amazing. It is amazing. I mean, I could wax, we could talk about this policy stuff all the time. I mean,
Right.
the idea that, that cities or counties or states have to use their credit in order to create to enhance the ability to build stuff that's,
Right.
that has value at the end of the day, so that you could build buildings that have no value at the end of the day until they fall out of affordability. I mean, it's just that we've created a construct that is literally our own worst enemy for creating housing. So
what is it that you think that's unique about you, that you bring to the table, that's allowed for this? I see a sea change, if I may.
Yeah, what is a unique about me, Roger Krulak, besides being horribly impatient and ridiculously innovative and
There you go.
and being geeky enough to sort of figure out solutions to things that people say they can't figure out solutions to. Those are probably the big things.
Yeah.
I have significant energy and passion around what we're trying to do. I believe in it on all levels. I believe on in what we're doing, the process by which we're doing it, and I believe in the product that we're building and the need for it. It's interesting. I went to business school and talk about market share and coverage and capacity, and I mean we could quintuple the capacity of building in this country and we would still be millions of units behind. So there's so I like the market, there's some other problems with it, but there is endless need, and so so I get up in the morning and like, well, I'm doing good stuff. I'm building housing, I'm solving problems, I'm working sort of in a sort of ESG model by its nature,
Right.
Mostly minority workers, training underemployed people, building housing for people who don't have it, and
making a profit.
And making a profit.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So it's and I don't know. I think that's pretty good.
I think that's really good. So you right now you're located in Connecticut. I think, don't you have a plant in Brooklyn and your office?
We don't have a plant in Brooklyn anymore, although that was our birthplace.
Okay.
We left New York for some of the reasons that I was just speaking about, which is sort of the unwillingness to lean in and solve problems. So we left there, and we are now based in Hamden, Connecticut. And Connecticut, by the way, is fully willing to lean in and solve problems. You literally can roll up your sleeves with anybody in Connecticut on any day, and they want to like, how do we solve the problem? It's pretty encouraging. Now, I don't know that it's always been that way because I haven't been around that long, but right now it's a pretty engaged process. And we have a factory in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, you're on the West Coast.
Yep, right on the Columbia River, and we're building a hotel for Starwood Capital in Sunnyvale, California, right now from that location.
Yep.
And we're talking to people in Hawaii and up and down the coast of California and a bunch of other places. So
for the Hawaii project, I guess you containerize everything and you ship it over?
Yeah, well, it is itself a container. It's not in a container. So it's
containers onto a container ship and ship.
You load mods onto a ship and onto a barge, but not a container ship. This is my geekiness, not a container ship, but actually a bulk cargo ship. And our mods can stack 3 high and be just shipped as are fully waterproof, et cetera. They don't have to go into anything. So. Wow. And then they end up at the port, and they get lifted off onto a truck and trucked to the job site and installed. And you got it. and then everything gets shipped as one thing rather than all of the pieces.
Right. So there's got to be a huge efficiency in that.
There is huge efficiency. The cost, so the efficiency is that you're using industrialized construction and that you're doing it in a place that's, not controlled by weather and all of those things, and you're doing it in an ergonomic fashion. Like all manufacturing have the ability to have a QA/QC process that is very precise.
Right.
That's all the positives, and less skilled labor needs, shorter periods of time. And the countervailing issue is it has to get transported, and it's a wide load. They're significantly large and significantly heavy. So by aggregating all those things, you have a bunch of stuff that has to get transported in a way that requires some logistical maneuvering, and that's one of the reasons on both coasts we're on the water, because we really believe that water's, if you're water to water, it's very efficient. So if it's Portland to Hawaii, or if it's Portland to San Diego port, or if it's Portland to it's very efficient. It can still go on a truck, and it can still go, if it's under 11 feet, can still go on a train, but you have to do that logistics, and you want to have as few want to have as few modes of transportation as you can.
Right, exactly. Well, this show is called Listening with Leaders. You've been in business for many, many years. Tell me about the value of listening as you've moved through your career.
The value of listening. There's nothing, I don't even, that's such an interesting question. You have to listen, and you don't learn when you're talking. It's people like, I speak all the time, and I love the idea of interacting with people, but what I really love doing is sitting and listening to people think about what they're doing, and to see what I can learn from that. And it doesn't matter whether it's a TED talk or a psychology book, or or some metaphysical exploration of what's going on in your toe. It doesn't, all of it has value. I mean, I think as I get older, more listening, less talking has become a paradigm.
One of your unique attributes that you mentioned was your impatience.
Yeah.
You want stuff to happen yesterday. What do you do when you're in a situation and somebody's talking and you start to get impatient with them?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I try to listen to them, and I know I'd say I probably was more petulant and impatient many years ago. I'm a little bit more about, everybody wants things done now. We're sort of an immediate, I was talking to somebody about like immediate gratification, and people call me all the time to ask me to open a factory in Kathmandu, right? And they're interested in doing it, and they want to do it tomorrow, and everything is going to happen tomorrow. And so I was talking sort of more about that sort of impatience. Is like my wife would probably tell you I'm not the best listener, but I'm constantly working on that. And I do try to listen. Maybe I don't listen as patiently as I should, but I do try to listen to what others are saying and take it in.
Interesting. So how many people do you have in your organization?
It's about 50 something now. So we moved from New York, which was sad. We had to leave a bunch of people behind, and we're building back up. So It's about 50 something, and full scale factories have roughly 100 workers, and then support team of 25 to 30.
Boy, when you think about how many people it takes to build a skyscraper, and you're only talking about 100 workers, I mean, that's pretty significant.
It's huge. I mean, now there are sub-assemblies that we make, so there's pieces and parts that we still have people that are not directly employed by FullStack, but the assembly process is like that many people. So.
Wow. Huh. Amazing.
Yeah.
So where's the
inefficiency of how we've organized construction?
So what's the future?
What's the future of our universe, the world, the country?
No, let's keep it narrow. Where is FullStack Modular going? What's the
so if I wanted to project, 7 years in the future, my hope is to be able to create a system by which people can utilize, industrialized construction, and especially volumetric modular construction, because that's what we do, in a way that it would be a tool by which you could create more housing all over the world, much like a franchise, although I don't love that word. The idea is that we could provide the design, manufacturing, material support so that Kathmandu can open up a factory if there's enough work to do that, but FullStack doesn't have to open up that factory.
It sounds to me like a licensing opportunities.
Yeah. So licensing, franchising, I mean, we have all those conversations, but we have work to do, right? So, we now have 2 factories, and my experience in the construction industry tells me that until you have 3 factories, you can't really reality test the effectiveness of what you're doing, because you can bootstrap 2, but you can't bootstrap 3. It's sort of a man-to-man coverage doesn't work anymore. You've got to zone the process in a way.
Are you thinking about your next factory being somewhere in the middle of the country?
Could be in another country, could be, yeah. I mean, I kid you not that I do get several calls a day from somewhere in the world that would love to have a factory tomorrow. And that includes most of the states in the United States, but also every country I've mentioned and probably all that I have not. So.
Wow. So as you said, you're on fire right now.
Yeah, the industry is on fire, and as a result, we are getting, as much sort of, and there aren't a lot of people in our space, like the mid to high rise space. There's lots of people who build wood modular buildings very effectively and incredibly well. Lots of people who do panelized construction, facades very well, very mature industry. But the steel high rise, seismically responsive, there aren't many players, and it's a newer part of the industry for sure.
Not a lot of competition yet.
It's coming.
But it's coming, of course.
No.
But being the innovator and being in front is always good.
I don't know. There's all kinds of sayings from very famous people about pioneers and what happens to them, but we don't have to go there today.
Well, I understand. I'm a pioneer in what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take some slings and arrows, but also,
to
your point, it's pretty exciting to be on the cutting edge of an idea that can change the world.
Yeah, and to see how it's evolved right now is incredibly rewarding. To see the amount of pickup and interest in it is compared to the who's this 8-headed, 4-handed figure who walked in here and is telling me something that I do not want to hear about. So like, what can I learn about this, and how can we include it in our process?
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah,
that's so exciting. Well, one last question. I'll let you go, Roger. What's one thing about yourself that we would never know unless you revealed it to us?
One thing, unless I reveal it to me. I mean, I love biking and paddleboarding, and it's one of the many places I find my center. So.
Yep, paddleboarding. I was just paddleboarding with my wife up at Shaver Lake, California, up above us, and took our little 2-year-old border collie. We got one of those big 15.
Oh yeah, love taking the dogs on the paddleboard.
Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah, so yeah, we share that. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Really interesting conversation. I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
I think you can change the world, man.
That's the idea.
Good for you.